Greetings, MantaRay79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is G standard formats, Kageros, Dragonic Overlord the Cross, and Dragonic Overlord the End. Alright then, let's get started. First off, the main deck. So first off, the cards in the main deck, we have the starting unit, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. By my opinion, he's one of the best starting units in the Kagero clan's G standard format, and also really helpful to have in the premium format. For his skills are, the first skill, Forerunner. When ridden on top of, you can move Conroe from your soul to the rear guard. Ideally, this will help you have a 5,000 power boost in the back row as soon as you ride to grade 1, and you also have a rear guard Conroe whose skill you can use later. The second skill of Conroe, as a rear guard, by counterblasting 1 and retreating Conroe from your own rear guard, you can search your deck for any grade 1 or less Kagero unit and add it to your hand. Ideally, this skill is used to add a perfect guard or a heal trigger whose you can use as a cost for G Guardians or any other grade 1 or less unit who can help you in your later strategies in the game. And now next, let's go to the grade 1 lineup. For the grade 1 lineup of this deck, we have 4 Lizard General Conroes, 3 Spear of the Flame Dragon Tars, 2 Doombringer High Flames, and 4 Protect Orb Dragons. The grade 1 Lizard General Conroe, one of the best supporting units for the Kagero's Dragonic Overlords. For his skills are, the first skill, when called to the rear guard, you may reveal 1 grade 3 in your hand. If you've done so, you may search your deck for any grade 3 with the name Overlord and add it to your hand. And then if a card was added by this skill, you have to pay the cost of discarding 1 card from your hand. Ideally, this first skill is to help you secure a grade 3 Dragonic Overlord you wish to specifically ride when it's time to go to grade 3, or to have a second grade 3 in your hand to secure a stride cost. And then the second skill of Conroe, by retreating Conroe from your own rear guard, you may choose your Vanguard Overlord and give it a skill. Whenever your Vanguard attacks, you may countercharge 2. So ideally, you can use this skill to refund on your counterblast to use for other skills if you wish to. The grade 1, Spear of the Flame Dragon Tar. His skill is, as a rear guard, once per turn, Generation Break 1. By paying a cost of counterblasting 1 and 1 Soul Blast, you may select 1 unit on your field, give it 4,000 power and a skill. The skill is, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, whenever it attacks, you may check the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3 Flame Dragon and add it to your hand. So ideally, this skill is to help you add more grade 3 or higher Flame Dragons to your hand for costs for skills or stride costs as well, or perhaps even to ride a new grade 3 Vanguard. The best part of this skill is it's stackable if you put it to the correct unit. Since Dragonic Overlords specialize in restanding and attacking multiple times, it's possible to reuse this second ability multiple times whenever you attack with a Vanguard Overlord. The grade 1, Doombringer High Flame. His skills are, the first skill, when called onto the rear guard, you may send up to 2 grade 3 Overlords from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, and then 2 different abilities are activated depending on how many you put in. If 1 or more cards were put into your deck, you may shuffle your deck, If 2 or more cards were returned, you may draw 1 card. So this first skill more or less makes a good way to draw 1 card and to restock your deck with grade 3s. And then the second skill of High Flame. During the beginning of your ride phase, by retreating High Flame from your own rear guard, you will not have to pay any cost when you wish to stride a G unit with the name Overlord. So High Flame is also a stride fodder for the Overlord series, which is pretty good as well. The Great One, Sentinel, Perfect Guard, Protect Orb Dragon. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When used to guard, you may discard 1 card from your hand and completely block 1 attack. And he also has an additional ability to go with his Perfect Guard. After guarding, if you have another copy of Protect Orb Dragon in your drop zone, you may countercharge 1. So it's pretty much a good Perfect Guard that lets you refund your counterblast for other skills you wish to use during your next turn. And with that, we've just about covered the Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's go to the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2 line of this deck, we have 4 Emperor Dragon Knight Nehalems, 3 Glow Heater Dragons, 3 Burning Horn Evolutes, and 2 Berserk Lord Dragons. The Emperor Dragon Knight Nehalem, Grade 2. His skill is, as a rear guard, Generation Break 1, during your turn, if your Vanguard is an Overlord, Nehalem gets plus 2,000 power for the turn. And a skill, as a rear guard, whenever your Grade 4 or higher Vanguard attacks, Nehalem gains plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So for these 2 abilities, Nehalem is a good support for the Overlord series. For this first one, as long as your Vanguard is an Overlord, he gets a 2,000 power boost, making him a base 11,000 power attacker. And this second skill, if you've got a Grade 4 or higher Overlord when attacking, he gets plus 5,000 power, and which this ability is stackable, which goes well if you play Overlords and use these skills to restand and attack multiple times. You can stack 5,000 power over and over to Nehalem as long as you pay any additional cost for your Vanguard. The Grade 2, Glow Heater Dragon. His skills are, when ridden or called, you must reveal an Overlord from your hand, or otherwise, during that turn, Glow Heater loses 5,000 power. So if you fail to have an Overlord in your hand by the time you place this unit on the field, he loses 5,000 power. It's a negative effect. But his own base power of 10,000 and his second skill more or less make up for this first negative effect. His second skill is, as a rear guard, if your Vanguard is an Overlord that's Grade 4 or higher, your Glow Heater gets plus 2,000 power for every card in your opponent's damage zone. So as long as you've managed to pressure your opponent to 5 damage at most, Glow Heater will get plus 10,000 power with his own skill, making him a pretty good attacker, seeing as how neither of his first 2 skills require to pay any costs. The Grade 2, Burning Horn Evolute. His skills are, the first skill, when called onto the rear guard, by revealing 1 Overlord in your hand and Soul Blasting 1, you may retire 1 of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as Burning Horn. And in the second skill of Burning Horn Evolute, as a rear guard, if your Vanguard is an Overlord that's Grade 4 or higher, Burning Horn gains plus 2,000 power for every card in your opponent's damage zone. So this second skill more or less is the same as Glow Heater, as long as you've managed to push your opponent to 5 damage. At most, Burning Horn Evolute will get a 10,000 point boost without having to pay any actual costs. And then the Grade 2, Berserk Lord Dragon. His skill is, as a rear guard, Generation Break 1. Whenever your Grade 4 higher Vanguard attacks, you may counterblast one and retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards. So this skill works well with Dragonic Overlords who specialize in restanding and attacking multiple times, since as long as you can pay the counterblast each time, you can keep reusing Berserk Lord's skill to retire more of your opponent's rear guards and clear out their side of the field. So with that, we've just about covered the Grade 2 lineup. Next, let's go to the Grade 3 lineup. For the Grade 3 line of this deck, we have 4 Dragonic Overlord the Crosses and 4 Dragonic Overlord the End. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord the Cross, the main Grade 3 of this deck. His skills are, the first skill, Legion. If both players' Vanguards are Grade 3 or higher, by returning 5 cards from your drop zone to your deck, you may search your deck for the Legion mate of this unit and Legion it. After that, shuffle your deck. So for those of you who've been playing Vanguard since the original series, you should know what Legion is. It's an ability that lets you have 2 cards in your Vanguard circle, and the power of both units are summed together during your turn. And it's also a good way to return cards and triggers to your deck. And then the second skill of the Cross. When the Cross legions, you may search your deck for the same card as your Vanguard and add it to your hand. So by legioning, you'll be able to add either a Dragonic Overlord the Cross or his Legion mate, Dragonic Overlord the End. Simply by legioning, you'll be able to add a Grade 3 of either of these two, which you can use for skills or stride costs later. Then the third skill of the Cross. If the Cross's attack fails to hit, you may Counterblast 1 and Persona Blast 1 Dragonic Overlord the Cross. And then you may retire 2 of your opponent's rear guards. So in the event your Vanguard the Cross fails to attack, you may use this third skill to clear out their field from rear guards, which is still pretty good. So next we have the Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord the End. His first skill is, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, if you have a non-Kagero rear guard on the field, Dragonic Overlord the End loses 2,000 power. So if you're the type to play Cray Elementals, or during the premium format, if you call something that isn't a Kagero unit, you'll risk losing 2,000 power, but this is a G standard deck, so we don't have to worry except for Cray Elementals. Then the second skill of Dragonic Overlord the End. As long as you have a Dragonic Overlord in your soul, the End gains 2,000 power at all times. So this ability is known as a cross ride. As long as you have the correct unit in the soul, the plus power will be almost semi-permanent. Then the third skill of the End. If in the event that Dragonic Overlord the End's attack hits, you may Counterblast 2 and Persona Blast 1 the End from your hand and restand your Vanguard. And with that, we've just about covered the Grade 3 lineup of this deck. Let's go to the Trigger lineup. For the Trigger lineup of this deck, we have 4 Dragon Dancer Palomas, critical triggers. 4 Dragon Dancer Tiklas, critical triggers. 2 Seal Dragon Art Peaks, draw triggers. 2 Gatling Claw Dragons, draw triggers. And 4 Dragon Dancer Taras, heal triggers. The Grade 0, critical trigger, Dragon Dancer Paloma. Her skill is, when discarded from your hand for a stride cost, she is treated as a Grade 3, so Paloma more or less serves as a stride fodder for striding G units on your turn. The Grade 0, critical trigger, Dragon Dancer Tikla. Her skill is, as a rearguard, Generation Break 1. When your Vanguard attacks, you may move Tikla from your rearguard into the soul. Then you may draw one card and give your Vanguard plus 10,000 power till the end of the battle. So Tikla's skill is more or less used to restock your soul, your hand, and to give your attacking Vanguard plus 10,000 power. The grade 0, draw trigger, Seal Dragon Art Peak. His skill is, as a rearguard, if you choose to move Art Peak from your rearguard to the soul, one Kagero unit on your field gets plus 3,000 power till the end of the turn. So this skill is a good way to restock your soul or to give your Vanguard or any rearguard on your field a little extra power for attacking. The grade 0, draw trigger, Gatling Claw Dragon. His skill is, as a rearguard, you may counterblast one and move your rearguard Gatling Claw into the soul. Then, doing so, you may retire one of your opponent's grade 0 rearguards. So, ideally, this skill is good. It's a good way to restock your soul and to retire any of your grade 0 rearguards. For example, their Forerunner or any grade 0s that go along with their own strategies. And now, the grade 0, heal trigger, Dragon Dancer Tara. Her skill is, when discarded from your hand for the cost of bringing a Generation Guard, after guarding, you may choose to remove from play the Tara you paid for the cost and an additional Tara from your drop zone from the game, and you may choose to either countercharge one or soul charge one. So as long as you don't mind the idea of removing heal triggers from the game, you can use Tara's skill to restock your soul or to refund Counterblast to use for other skills. And with that, we've just about covered the trigger lineup of this deck. The trigger lineup is 8 critical triggers, 4 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And so I've just about covered the main deck. Now let's go to the cards in the G zone. And now, the G zone. For the cards in the G zone, let's start with the G units. And so the G units in this deck, we have 2. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Dragonic Overlord the Purge. 3. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Dragonic Overlord the Ace. 2. Flare General, Dumjit Valor. 3. Flare Arms, Ziegenberg. 1. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Zanbus Dragon, and 1. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Ascend Grave Dragon. The grade 4, G unit, Dragonic Overlord the Purge. His skill is, as a Vanguard, once per turn, you can turn one card in your G zone face up and then place an Overlord from your hand into the soul. By doing so, as long as your opponent has 4 or less cards in their damage zone, you can deal 1 damage to your opponent, and the damage dealt by this card's skill cannot be using trigger effects. So this is more or less the main skill of the Purge. As long as you can turn one card in your G zone face up and have an Overlord in your hand ready to place into Overlord's your Vanguard soul, you'll be able to deal 1 damage to your opponent, and that damage cannot use any trigger effects. So since this skill is before making any attacks, you can still not have to worry about when it's time to attack your opponent with your Vanguard or Rearguards. And then the second skill of the Purge, as a Vanguard, Generation Break 3, its skill is, your Vanguard, the Purge's drive check becomes the same as the number of cards in your opponent's damage zone. So as long as you've managed to pressure your opponent to 5 damage before you use this Vanguard, maybe using the Purge's skill or when your previous turn's attacks, the Purge will at most have 5 cards to drive check with, which you can use to either increase your chances of getting a trigger or to restock your hand with 5 new cards. The grade 4, G unit, Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Dragonic Overlord the Ace. His skill is, by counterblasting 2 and turning 1 the ace face up in your G zone and reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 1. Your Vanguard gets a skill. After attacking, by discarding 1 card from your hand and 1 Overlord from your hand, you can stand your Vanguard the ace and give it plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So it's like most Overlords, is a restanding skill, which also works well since the second attack will be given an extra 5,000 power. Despite having to reduce your drive check before making any attacks, it's still a pretty good skill. And the best part about the ace is his skill is stackable, so as long as you can manage to pay the 2 counterblast, have another Overlord, the ace in your G zone to turn face up, and have another Overlord in your hand ready to discard for this card skill, it's possible to restand your the ace at least more than once, as long as you make the necessary payments. But the only downside is you have to reduce your Vanguard's drive check by 1 each time you choose to pay the original cost of 2 counterblast, turning the ace face up. But even so, it's still a pretty good G unit to have in your G standard and premium format Overlord decks. The Grade 4 G unit, Flare General, Dumjit Valor. His skills are: the first skill, as a Vanguard, Blaze. The Blaze ability is when your Vanguard or Rearguard attacks. If you have more Rearguards than your opponent, your Vanguard enters the blazing state. The second skill of Valor, as a Vanguard, by counterblasting 1 and turning 1 card in your G zone face up, Dumjit Valor gains 15,000 power for every Sentinel in your drop zone. So as long as you've managed to get a bunch of perfect guards or possibly even quintet walls or any other kind of Sentinels into your drop zone, by using this second skill, you can stack tremendous amounts of power to your Vanguard Dumjit Valor. And then the third skill of Dumjit Valor, as a Vanguard, once per turn, after attacking, if your opponent has already used a G Guardian or Sentinel to guard during the turn your Dumjit Valor attacked, you can restand your Vanguard at the cost of reducing your drive check by 1. So this third skill, like the ace, it's more or less a restanding ability. So it's mainly meant to be used if you've already confirmed your opponent has a heal trigger to bring out a Generation Guard or a Perfect Guard or any other kind of Sentinel in their hands. So this is more or less to either force them to use it or not use it in order to avoid or confront this Vanguard skill. So still a pretty good G unit, by my opinion. The Grade 4 G unit, Flare Arm Ziegenberg. His skills are: the first skill, as a Vanguard, Blaze. I already mentioned Blaze in the Dumjit Valor, so I'm going to skip that. The second skill of Flare Arm Ziegenberg, once per turn as your Vanguard, by Soul Blasting 1 and turning 1 Ziegenberg in your G zone face up, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So it's pretty much a basic skill for Kageros, since you can retire an opponent's rear guard. And then there's the third skill of Ziegenberg. Once per turn as your Vanguard, Generation Break 3, after your Vanguard attacks, by counterblasting 1 and discarding from your hand the same number of cards as your opponent's rear guards, you can restand your Vanguard Ziegenberg at the cost of once reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 2. So the most flexible part about this skill is, as long as you've managed to wipe out all of your opponent's rear guards, you'll be able to reduce the necessary hand cost to restand Ziegenberg. Like, for example, if you've already managed to reduce your opponent's rear guards to 0 by the time you attack with Ziegenberg, when you pay the counterblast of 1, as long as you've managed to clear out all your opponent's rear guards, you won't have to pay any hand cost to restand your Vanguard Ziegenberg. So despite losing 2 drive checks in the second attack, it's still a really good skill to have to pressure the opponent with multiple Vanguard attacks and to possibly save up your hand by skipping the hand cost by, like I said before, reducing your opponent's rear guards. And then now here we have the Grade 4 G unit, Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Zanbus Dragon. His skill is, as a Vanguard, once per turn, when he attacks, when he, in the main phase, not attacking, sorry. By turning 1 card in your G zone face up, you can retire all of your opponent's rear guards. Then all grade 3 or higher units in your front row get plus 10,000 power. So it's a pretty simple and basic skill, but really powerful. Since Zun Best Dragon lets you, without paying any heavy cost, retire all of your opponent's rear guards, and all grade 3 higher units in your front row get plus 10,000 power. So it's a good way to clear your opponent's field and get some decent attacks through on his own, or having more rear guards in the field that are grade 3 or higher. Then the grade 4 G unit, Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Ascend Grave Dragon. His skill is, the first skill, Blaze. Like I mentioned before with Ziegenberg, I'm not going to explain Blaze since I already explained it back with Dumjit. So let's go to the second skill. His second skill is, as a Vanguard, once per turn, by counterblasting 1 and turning 1 card in your G zone face up, your Vanguard gets a skill. When Ascend Grave attacks, if he's in the blazing state, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards and draw 1 card. So it's pretty much a basic skill that's good to use with Kagero decks, since it's a good way to clear out your opponent's rear guards even by a little, and also draw an extra card to restock your hand. So still a good card to have, like I mentioned before, with the other cards. Works well with any Kagero deck, especially even with Overlords. And so with that, I've just about covered the G unit lineup for this deck. Next, let's go to the G Guardian lineup. And now, the G Guardians. For the G Guardians in this deck, we have 1. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Defeat Flare Dragon. 2. Flamewing Steel Beast, Denial Griffin. And 1. Divine Dragon Knight, Salam. The Grade 4, G Guardian, Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Defeat Flare Dragon. A G Guardian built to be used with Overlord decks, for his skill is, when used to guard, you can pay a counterblast of 1 and send 2 grade 3 flame dragons from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. And if your Vanguard is an Overlord, you can retire all of your opponent's back row units. So effectively, this G Guardian, like I mentioned before, was built to be used with Overlords, and its skill is to wipe out your opponent's back row when blocking an opponent's Vanguard attack. So ultimately, the skill is helpful for reducing your opponent's rear guards, or for cutting down their front row attack power by removing their back row boosters. So despite the slightly high cost of having to send 2 grade 3s in your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, it's still a pretty good card to have. The grade 4, G Guardian, Flamewing Steel Beast, Denial Griffin. One of the best G Guardians for the Kagero decks in the G Standard format and Premium format. For his skill is, when used to guard an opponent's rear guard attack, by counterblasting 1, you can retire the attacking unit, thus making it sort of a pseudo-perfect guard for rear guard attacks. The Grade 4, G Guardian, Divine Dragon Knight, Salam. His skill is, when used to guard against an opponent's Vanguard attack, by counterblasting 1, you can more or less give Salam plus 10,000 shield for every empty rearguard circle in the opponent's field. So as long as you've managed to clear out some empty spaces on your opponent's field, Salam will get 10,000 shield for every empty rearguard circle when used to guard. And with that, we've just about covered the G Guardian lineup. And with that, just about covered everything in this deck. So first off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to stay tuned for any more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.